right. Welcome back, everybody, to our latest episode of The Nest. As promised, we are back after a very exciting Super Bowl 56, where we see the Los Angeles Rams defeat the Cincinnati Bengals 23-20 to win Super Bowl 56 and win their second championship. So, we're just going to be recapping this game today. Very exciting matchup. And joining me is Anirban Chakraborty, Pratik Sinha, welcome back, and Ujan Talukdar and Rohan Venkatesh will be joining us shortly at some point, we hope. So yeah, guys, how are we doing?
Yeah, doing well. It was really an entertaining game throughout all aspects. Hearty congratulations to the Los Angeles Rams for winning their title, especially obviously to Matt Stafford, Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp. Odell. You could just go on and on. And of course, a big congrats to the Cincinnati Bengals for really getting there and making this such an entertaining, awesome game for a neutral to watch. Obviously, I ended up being wrong with my prediction, but it was a great game, so I can't really find too many faults there. Just really entertaining game, and really congrats to both teams for making this such a great season for us.
Yeah, it was definitely an entertaining finish to the longest and best NFL season in many ways. So, yeah, like the Rams, they lost a tough one a few years ago to the Patriots, and they definitely they loaded up their roster this year, and a lot of players that had never won before a Super Bowl, they finally accomplished it. So it was great, and looking forward to now the off season and what comes next. But yeah, it was a great ending to the season, I thought.
Yeah, I would say it was one great game, great way to end the season. I would say that, in typical NFL fashion, there were some questionable calls, but overall, I don't want to have that overshadow what ultimately was quite a great game, to be honest. It was fantastic for the neutral. Great stay in a great stadium. Like the stars showed up, and the best team won in the end.
Yeah, I will say, like, the referees for the most part did a terrific job not calling penalties until the Rams' final drive, when all of a sudden they just seemed to inject themselves into the game, just calling 3 or 4 penalties like that. Holding penalty on Cooper Kupp, I'm sorry, that was a bad call. At that point of the game, you are just letting that slide. And let's not forget, T. Higgins literally grabbed Jalen Ramsey's face mask on that 75-yard touchdown to begin the second half. How do you not call that? And then you call that holding penalty on what it would have been like third down, right? On Cooper Kupp at the time, it would have been third down. Like, I don't know, that just kind of irritated me. And then Kupp catches the touchdown. Then there's helmet to helmet hit. It just seemed like late in the game, the refs just sort of really tried to make themselves like visible. And I didn't like that. The Rams are deserving of it. I think at the end of the day, one of the things that really stood out to me, and this was something we mentioned in the pregame, right? Cincinnati's offensive line, very bad. And we saw it again. Joe Burrow was sacked 7 times. That's a Super Bowl record, tied with, I believe, Joe Namath or somebody in the past. But Cincinnati's offensive line late just, it couldn't hold up. The final play of the game, I feel, was very kind of telling, right? Where Joe Burrow just can't escape Aaron Donald's grasp. And to Joe Burrow's credit, he actually got the pass off. And I think Samaj Pirine, was he the one who dropped it, or someone dropped it? But I think it was Pirine. I know it was a difficult.
Yeah, Pirine was in the vicinity. So he could have perhaps laid out and made a little bit of an effort, but it was only 1 yard left. 1 yard that they needed to pick up, but it was relatively close to Pirine, and I thought he could have at least laid out for it.
I have to also give Cooper Kupp all the credit in the world. That 4th and 1 conversion he had, he was terrific. It was just a terrific performance by him. 8 catches, 92 yards, 2 touchdowns. We had outlined in the preview that Cooper Kupp is essentially someone the Bengals won't be able to guard. Even if they double team him, he's just that good. And he was the guy that Matthew Stafford basically looked at the end. It kind of reminded me in a way of like Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, that type of trust he has, like where late in the games, when it was like prime Gronk, Brady would just throw to Gronk because he knew that like Gronk would make the play. And this is what sort of happened with Stafford and Cooper Kupp. So, I mean, just a terrific matchup overall. And I mean, I think the Rams are the deserving team. Obviously, they went all in. They don't have a first round pick until 2024. But I mean, look, it worked for them. They won the Super Bowl. And Sean McVay, I mean, credit to him. 3 years ago, his offense under him with a different quarterback in Jared Goff put up 3 points, which was definitely embarrassing. I know the Patriots defense was terrific that day, but I mean, 3 points in the Super Bowl, I mean, wasn't very good. And this time he learned from it clearly, and it worked off. I mean, Stafford made the necessary plays when he needed to do it. Cooper Kupp was there, especially when Odell Beckham Jr., I mean, he was good and then he got injured and he just didn't return. But I mean, credit to the Rams. I mean, they adjusted to the game and they deserve to win. I mean, I am a little sad about Cincinnati. I love their story. Joe Burrow, last year, 4 wins. I mean, coming in and I mean, upsetting Kansas City, upsetting Tennessee. I mean, just the whole story was very kind of cool, but unfortunately it just didn't work out for them today. The Rams were deserving of the Super Bowl trophy for sure. So yeah, I mean, let's just discuss this a little bit more, all the aspects. So yeah, I mean, guys, let's just delve in. So what did you sort of like, let's talk about Cincinnati then a little bit. What do you think they could have done, or what do you think they're going to be regretting the most? So Pratik, let's just start with you.
I mean, I think really they need to get some protection for Joe Burrow. That's the main thing. Like, it's like he is a fantastic quarterback, and if he just has a little bit more time, he can really surgically just like cut apart any defense. But he was really rushing. He was aware that the Rams pass rush was going to be a problem, and to his credit, he did hit some really cool throws. But yeah, I think if the Bengals can get offensive line together, they're going to be scary. So I definitely do think that they'll continue to be good, but I also feel like the Super Bowl losers curse could hit just because of how competitive the AFC is going forward. So yeah, like it's gonna sting because this is a missed opportunity for them, and you never know when you're gonna be back in a Super Bowl. Like, as Patriots fans, we were all spoiled that our team was kind of repeatedly in it over like a 20-year period, but there's no guarantee Cincinnati is going to be back next year or the year after. Like, they really had a good chance today, and I think they'll regret it, but they can also be proud of getting this far. And after not having won a playoff game since 1991, like, they'll have a lot of positive takeaways from this season, but if I'm a Bengals fan right now, I would be quite sad. So that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, just on that point about getting back there, right? Like, it's interesting because oftentimes if a quarterback loses in their first appearance, I can't really think of the last time, probably John Elway, and maybe there was someone afterward, but like, I think the last time a quarterback lost their first Super Bowl appearance and then ended up winning afterward, it might have been Elway back in the 80s when he lost 3 and then he finished his career with 2 of them. So, I mean, Brady obviously lost and then he came back, but he had won his first 3. Like, Peyton Manning actually won his first and then he lost. Russell Wilson, I guess he never even got back after losing in Super Bowl 49. But like guys like Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, who else? Jared
McNabb.
Goff. Yeah, Donovan McNabb, exactly.
Matt
Jake
Hasselbeck.
Delhomme.
Yeah,
Yep.
like all these guys.
Exactly, yep. So, I
Right.
mean, there is a thing, like, I don't know if like Joe Burrow, like, I do like his mentality, I do like his grit, and I think in a way, like, I don't know if I can really say this, and maybe it's not fair, but Joe Burrow didn't really wow me today. Like, he was solid. Like, that pass to Higgins was obviously a great play, but Joe Mixon was the other guy who threw a touchdown pass. And that was a very good touchdown pass, by the way, because that wasn't an easy throw at all to make.
Yeah, it seems like you were seeing that trick play for today because they had never done that before.
And by the way, just welcoming in Rohan Venkatesh. Rohan, I'm hoping you're doing well. Yep.
Yeah. Doing well as always.
Cincy special?
Yeah.
Or I don't know, like, because that wasn't to the quarterback. Like, if Burrow caught it, I guess that would be like the Philly special in Cincinnati. I don't know, but
I mean, the Rams did try their Philly special, but it failed badly. I guess it didn't matter in the end. But I mean, Cooper Kupp completely botched that throw over there.
Yeah,
so.
Matt Stafford can't jump that high. He's a great player, but that was kind of botched.
It does introduce an interesting dynamic to the game where having your running backs being able to throw could become an interesting dynamic later on as the game progresses and matures even more. That could be something that potential scouts could be looking for in the future. For instance, is like situations like these.
Yeah, I mean, Anirban and Ujan, I just want to hear your thoughts too. Like, what is Cincinnati going to be like kind of regretting the most from today?
I think for me it's so, before the game, I know in our preview I guess a week or two ago, I had been talking about the offensive line and how, we saw them sack like 9 times against Tennessee and still win, sacked I guess really once against Kansas City. But I think what really struck me when I looked back at those games and what kind of made me give that optimism was how Joe Burrow and the Bengals were really able to get points on the board despite plays in which they were sacked. So if you actually look at the Tennessee game, for example, out of all of his 9 sacks, there was only one play sequence involving a sack in which they had to punt. Other than that, they got field goals or touchdowns. Versus, if you look at really the performance today for Joe Burrow in the position of a sack, most of the time you saw that really leading to punts. And I think, especially in the context of all the turnovers, right? They got 2 interceptions off of the Rams, off of Matt Stafford, right? And I think they're going to also look back on that, right? Because the first interception, they actually had to punt in a play in which he was sacked. And the second one, they got an interception and then they had to kick a field goal, right? But again, there's a sack on that play. And on 4th and 12, they had to kick a field goal, go up 13-20, when maybe without that sack, they could have gone down, gone a touchdown, and ultimately, ultimately would have changed the course of the game. So I think not being able, I guess, to get points on the board after the sacks is something that I think was really going to harm them, and especially related to that, not being able to get points off of possessions that they got from turnovers ultimately ended up being decisive.
Also, just about like Cincinnati's like play calling. So that 4th and 1 in the first quarter when they went for it on their own
I don't blame
49-yard line and they didn't
I
get
don't
it, but
blame
then
them.
it gave an easy
They
touchdown.
were at midfield, right? I mean, it turned out to be the wrong decision, but I mean, I kind of mentioned this in the previous episode, right? If you're 4th and short and you're near midfield, it makes sense to go for it. That was an instance where it didn't end up working out, and the Rams ended up scoring on the ensuing drive. But I don't blame the Bengals for going for it on 4th and 1, because in the majority of situations it does work out. And later on, I mean, later on there were several other 4th and short situations that did work out. So and the majority of them did work out. So I don't blame them for thinking that it would work out that time. I mean, that time it didn't work out, but I mean, hindsight is always 20/20 on this.
Yeah, I mean, also just mention one thing, like Cincinnati ended up winning the turnover battle 2-0 and they lost. So that's going to be something that their defense will probably definitely think about a lot, like what they could have done late. Like, I mean, the defense was good.
That's true. I mean, they won the turnover battle, but I mean, as I kind of expected, right? I mean, Joe Burrow would that he would be put under pressure. I mean, he got sacked at least 7 times.
7 times.
Yeah, which was like a record, right? Aside from Super Bowl 10. So, and that's a stat that was highlighted in the broadcast if any of you were watching. But up until now, I mean, Joe Burrow, he was near the top of the league in terms of QBs sacked, which is a dubious distinction, but he still managed to get this far. Which I guess up until now, I mean, if you think about it, you would have thought that, okay, I guess it's not really a big deal. I guess today kind of did him in. Like, you can't really lead the league in sacks for that long without eventually having to pay the consequences for it. I mean, on so many different plays, whether it was like a 3rd and short where they're about to get a first down and instead it sets them back further, or like or even on 2nd down, right? Where they're potentially able to go for the first down and they were essentially set back, right? I mean, Joe Burrow, he's a great quarterback. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think he's got a bright future. I think the fundamentals are great on Joe Burrow. I mean, he just didn't have his best today, and that's just the nature of a one-off game. For whatever it is, I mean, I guess the Rams did have deserving it, despite the fact that the Bengals did kind of explode for a bunch of plays in the opening couple minutes of the second half. It was the most interesting beginning to a second half. It almost kind of reminded me of that Saints Colts Super Bowl where in the beginning of the second half, the Saints start with an onside kick and then they start their comeback that way. Of course, as I was watching in real time, I kind of thought that it would unfold that way. Of course, that didn't end up happening because in this case the Bengals actually ended up losing. But it is kind of an interesting case study in the sense that in the sense that I mean you can get off to a hot start in the second half, and it's not really indicative of whether you actually end up coming back or not. I mean, storylines are one thing, but once you try to back it up with concrete numbers, that's another. But at the end of the day, I think the Bengals they have a lot to be they do have a lot to be proud of. I mean, as Pratik was mentioning earlier, that's not really. I'm not gonna give that fake consolation and say that they're gonna be back soon. They're gonna be back next year because who knows? Right? Rosters change, people change, even coaches change. And we're here. We're at the end of the season, and everything is done and dusted. So I mean, next year is a totally new year, and anything can happen between now and then. But for the Bengals, I mean, they have achieved a lot this year. All I can say is that for the league as a whole, it does say that you can have several losing seasons and still mount a Super Bowl run, as was the case with the Bengals. So it's not really it's not really much of a hopeful sign. But I mean, if there's any kind of sense of despair among losing franchises, I guess the moral of the story is don't be in despair.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't think Joe Burrow, like, yes, he didn't wow me, but he didn't necessarily he didn't make any mistakes really. I mean, he didn't have any turnovers, he didn't lose any fumbles, but like at the same time, like it wasn't. I just felt like the play calling was. I wouldn't really go put it on the play calling. It was more of they didn't really execute. I mean, they got themselves into like third and longs. I mean, getting sacked almost pretty much at your own 2-yard line on a second down, making a third and long. That was pretty much a drive killer at that point. I just felt like they were just. It ultimately came down to lack of protection. And in this league, you need to, if you want to be successful, you have to protect your quarterback. They didn't do it last year. Joe Burrow suffered a serious injury, and they didn't really do it. It's not that it really improved that much this year in the sense that, like the divisional game, for example, 9 sacks. Tonight, 7 sacks. Like, I mean, those are just insanely high number of sacks for 2 playoff games. It's not like, but overall, I think there's still work that needs to be done. They still have Jamar Chase. They still got CJ Uzoma. They still got T. Higgins. I don't know. I think that they are still set up for the future, but you never know after a loss like this what it will do in terms of the morale of the franchise.
Yeah, and I'll also just mention this now. So no, I mean, I think we had a good discussion on sort of what went wrong for Cincinnati. So let's also give credit to the Los Angeles Rams. I know we were going to do that as well. So what did you think the Rams really did in crunch time late that really helped them win this game? Pratik, let's just start with you here.
I mean, I actually think like after that long touchdown that T. Higgins scored, and then after that, like the Rams defense really kind of clamped down. Like after that, they had the Stafford threw the interception, but the Rams defense did well to limit the Bengals to a field goal. And after that, they didn't really allow any more points. I think that kind of lit the fire. There was one play I remember clearly where Aaron Donald shoves Joe Burrow out of bounds, and then some Bengals player comes up to him and like kind of takes a swing, and like there's a little like altercation going on. And I think the commentators were even saying like Aaron Donald has kind of been like bottled up and he hasn't made his impact on the game. But ultimately, all the way to the last play, really, it was Aaron Donald who brought down Joe Burrow at the end, and he was getting emotional. I think that kind of lit a fire under him and the whole defense. And the Rams defense did their part, and even Stafford was not spectacular today. That last drive when the refs were inserting themselves, finally he was able to find Cooper Kupp for another touchdown, but it was really like, I don't think the Rams offense was spectacular really in any of these past few playoff games. Like in the previous game against the 49ers, like the Rams offense was just a little bit better than the other team, and that's all they had to do. But I was impressed by the defense. And I do think Cooper Kupp deserved the Super Bowl MVP because he just had a spectacular season all around. Like there were arguments to be made for him even being a regular season MVP, but I guess they weren't going to give that to a receiver. But yeah, it's really well deserved. But I was really impressed with the Rams defense, and yeah, no, it was a really great performance by them overall. So it'll be interesting to see how many of those guys they can bring back next year for an attempt to repeat, because as we all know, repeating is extremely hard in the NFL. So we'll see.
Repeat home champions this time, and I mean, congratulations to you, Pratik. I mean, you're the one guy here from LA, so
yeah, but the thing is,
I gotta give that to you.
The thing is, when I was living in LA, the Rams actually broke everybody's hearts because they had a pretty fervent fan base in the early '90s, and then they moved to St. Louis in '95 because of a stadium dispute. And then they won a Super Bowl in St. Louis to add insult to injury in LA, but then I guess the tables have turned because now people in St. Louis.
Well, yeah, because I mean, when they initially moved, I mean, the LA fans probably hated the Rams when they moved to St. Louis. Now, a lot of St. Louis fans hate the Rams because they're back in LA.
It's worse for St. Louis because I don't know if the NFL is ever going to go back to St. Louis. Like LA, they had no teams for about 20 years, and now
they got baseball and hockey, and that's it.
Yeah, they've got the Cardinals, they've got the Blues, but yeah, football fans in St. Louis, I don't really know who they're rooting for. I don't know who they were rooting for today. They're kind of close to Cincinnati, but yeah, like I don't know. It's rough for them.
Probably the Chiefs, if I had to guess.
Yeah, Missouri, I guess. But yeah, no, it's big for LA because LA is really kind of a basketball town. And the Dodgers, I guess. Dodgers are fairly popular and they've done well, but yeah, things are not looking good for the Lakers. So they should just hold on to whatever they can get this year. So that's my take on it.
LeBron is getting old, but that's a side note.
LeBron was at the game today. I was saying, like, you should just go practice your free throws. Like, just something. Like, he's embracing the celebrity lifestyle, I guess. That's what happens in LA.
Yeah, and
I don't know if he's going to be retiring there, but who knows how many years he's got left in the league? I mean, for all the contributions he's had.
Story for another time. But
yeah, definitely. Yeah. We will talk more about LeBron and the NBA going forward. But yeah, for today,
that is a side note. That is a side note. But I mean, like, I just kind of figured that it is eventually going to shift over to there because I mean, now this NFL season is done and dusted. It's in the books. I mean, what a great season. I mean, starting from the preseason all the way to the beginning of the season, if you think about it, as a Pats fan, I really thought that this team is gonna not really.
Just 1 second, Rohan. I wanna, before we go into the recap of the overall season, I just wanted to mention one thing about this matchup today or the game, and it was really kind of the broadcast crew. Did anyone else find that graphic for the score absolutely like horrendous? The one they gave now, I thought it was really awful. The new NBC score graphic that they gave. Did anyone else like have any like?
Well, I mean, I kind of thought. I mean, I thought some aspects of it were nice in the sense that they displayed the down and yards to go underneath the team that actually had the ball, as opposed to the Fox graphic, which would just display it at the top of the screen and they would place a dot near the team that had the ball. That's kind of a recent change that I did notice. I mean, like always, like NBC has always done with their NFL broadcast, they do post the scoreboard at the bottom of the screen as opposed to the top of the screen, with the clock at the center. I kind of thought it was a unique way of putting it. The play clock wasn't really as visible.
The play clock like placement was really badly done. Like, I don't know, like there was just some issues I had with this broadcast. Like overall it was a great game, but I don't know. There was some issues.
It just takes some getting used to. That's really like all I see in it, right? If it were left to me.
And we're gonna have plenty of time to get used to it because next year every Sunday night matchup is going to have that graphic now. So yeah.
It depends, right? Because they can always change it.
They're not going to change it. The Super Bowl is when they always try out their new graphic for the following season.
Oh, okay. I mean, that I guess that makes things interesting. But the way I see it, I personally think that with the scoreboard, making it smaller almost makes it, of course, it wasn't really particularly small this time, but if you do make it smaller, it kind of leaves room on the rest of the screen to add extra graphics, add extra stats. I always thought that would add some extra insights because I am kind of a data guy when it comes to that stuff, but that's just my personal take on it.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I mean, did anyone else? Oh yeah, go on, John.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in terms of the Rams, I think Pratik nailed it. In the sense that the Rams really just got their defense going. Like pretty much after the field goal. Which ultimately was Cincinnati's last score of the game. I don't think the defense played terribly overall. It was a couple of plays that really just beat them. For example, the trick play, and then the long pass, which really shouldn't have stood. The long touchdown at the start of the second half, which shouldn't have stood because of the face mask. But that's part of the game. Missed calls are part of the game, and it's unfortunate when it happens in a Super Bowl. Let's be honest. I mean, this is supposed to be the all-star officiating crew, right? And the fact that they missed this is kind of showing that the refs. I mean, the NFL might have assigned these refs incorrectly. I mean, I'm sure these refs have officiated in the Super Bowl before, like not just Ron Torbert, the referee, but like the side judge, field judge, back judge, those guys, right? But I would say in terms of the graphic, I don't think it's the worst thing. I liked it a little bit more. I mean, sometimes like in the previous graphic, I didn't think it was very obvious as to like who had the ball. There was like a little bar that kind of slid over like from one side of the score to the other as to who had the ball, but like wasn't really. And then this time it was pretty obvious as to who had the ball. So like I like that one. But the one thing I absolutely despair is especially for Foxes is like when they have like somebody touchdown and then they're really awful graphic of like the player, like for like when that came in the Super Bowl, I was cringing. And I was so glad that NBC did not do something like that. That's all.
They show like a graphic of like a comic book version of that player.
Yeah, and
that seems to be Fox's thing.
Yeah, that doesn't go down.
That and the dancing robots.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so we'll just wrap this up by giving kind of like our kind of consensus on the 2021 season, like what we thought, what we liked, what we didn't like. And then to end this podcast, as I guess it's become tradition now, we will make our very, very early predictions for Super Bowl 57 in Arizona. Ooh. So yeah, let's just quick, just sort of recap this 2021 season. Ujan, I guess you were talking anyway. Do you want to sort of continue and discuss sort of like kind of your overall thoughts and then just give your very early Super Bowl 57 prediction?
All right. Well, here we go. 1 year in advance. This will probably be changed multiple times throughout the next 364 days or however many days it is before Super Bowl 57. I would say that overall, it was a very enjoyable season. I personally liked the 17-game season. It gave me and I'm sure fans in general one extra week to look forward to for another NFL week. And it had its storylines from the Aaron Rodgers saga to Odell Beckham wanting out of Cleveland and eventually getting a ring. And then the highlighting we're highlighting the essentially young quarterbacks, like of course, or the 2021 draft, it was pretty much the year of the quarterback which quarterback was going to have the outstanding year. And I'm looking forward to year 2 for all of these guys, honestly. As for very early Super Bowl predictions, considering it's in Arizona, the last 2 times the Super Bowl's been in Arizona, there's been one team from the AFC that has been the New England Patriots. I will right now go with that claim of the New England Patriots are going back to the Super Bowl. I think Mac Jones is gonna, considering how Mac Jones is going about himself, he's got 1 year under his belt. I mean, I can see him making it to the Super Bowl just like Joe Burrow did. I know it's a bold pick, but like I said, I'm probably gonna revise this plenty.
I mean, Cincinnati, if someone had told you last year that Cincinnati would be in the Super Bowl, you would have been like, no way. So we never know.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And I have been wrong about the Pats in the past, because before the season even began, I was not in favor of ditching Cam Newton for Mac Jones. But in retrospect, I've said this repeatedly on the show before, that I think that it did end up being the right move. That said, I mean, the Patriots, they did kind of flame out towards the end of the season. They have shown that they've been able to play well. Do they really have it in them to go all the way? That's something I'm a little doubtful of. I mean, I have said at times in the middle of the season that, okay, like, especially after that time they beat the Bills in Buffalo, I said, okay, it looks like they really got something in them.
But the thing is,
but then and then they disappointed afterwards. But I mean, if you really think about like which team has the most fundamental strength, of course anything can happen, but I got to go with the Bills. I mean, I can't help but say the Bills.
Well, I would say, the thing is, like, there's going to be a lot of change in New England, because they already lost Josh McDaniels. They already lost their wide receivers coach. Their running backs coach is retiring. So they still have those voids to fill. So they're going to come in with fresh ideas for the offense. And the main question will be, how will the defense do? There's still going to be there's going to be free agency. There's going to be the draft. There's going to be preseason, OTAs, training camp, all that. And then I know the Patriots have a very tough schedule this upcoming year, but I think they have the capability to do it. Honestly, I mean, experience matters, and when it comes to the NFC side, it's definitely going to be I just think it's going to be another wide open season. Of course, there's going to be no more. Well, we think there will be no more Brady, so it's not. Of course, the NFC South is not really a given for the Bucs.
Well, why would Brady unretire at this point? There's no reason for him to do that.
All right, that is true, which is why I'm saying it's.
If you really have to think about reasons to unretire, I mean, who else is? I mean, Gronk did it, but Gronk did it so he could specifically play with, like, alongside Brady. Which I guess the question at this point is, what's going to happen to Gronk? Is he going to stay in the league? Is he going to retire? I mean, I have no idea.
Gronkowski specifically did say he would like to play with Joe Burrow. So that is what he has said on, like, you can quote it. That's what he said. So
okay, but that means that Gronk is probably not going to stay in Tampa. It's probably fair to say that.
Anyways, we'll talk more about this Brady speculation. Let's just stick to the 2021.
Well, I mean, this is Gronk speculation at this point, right? Because we're already
that's not part of 2021. That's not part of the 2021 outlook. Speculation about next year. I'm just saying, give the picks for now to just sort of keep time constraints.
Oh yeah. I mean, like in terms of picks, I mean, like fundamental strength wise, I mean, the Bills, that they just look very, very potent. Yeah, they came up short just barely against the Chiefs, but I think they have enough fundamental strength and they're definitely good enough with enough experience. They definitely have talent, strategy and experience wise. They just need to pick up a little bit more, but they're definitely capable of winning it all. I definitely think so.
Bills versus
the Bills are cursed, right? All teams eventually overcome curses.
I mean,
who will the Bills play in the Super Bowl then?
I'm going to say they beat the Packers.
I was trying to finish up here, but I'm going to say Patriots versus Cowboys in the Super Bowl.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to go for that one. I would have said perhaps There's a lot of question regarding. I honestly have thought that the NFC West was like one of the toughest divisions. I mean, I don't know if the Rams will be able to repeat. There's a lot of uncertainty with San Francisco. There's a lot of uncertainty with Arizona, with considering Kyler Murray. You don't know what's going to happen with Seattle. I don't really trust any of them at this point in time. In terms of the East, I genuinely think that with Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy are a good match for each other. I would hence I'm going to go with Dallas Cowboys for right now.
Okay, I'll go next. So, I mean, overall, this 2021 season, I loved it. I mean, I love football in general. So, adding an extra week to the season, I loved it. I mean, I thought it was a great product overall. I loved the Cincinnati story. I loved the Patriots being a big Patriots supporter. I loved seeing them come back to the playoffs and once again, sort of like kind of showing that they're not done. And with a new quarterback, rookie quarterback, I loved the season overall. It was a great product. Cincinnati reaching the Super Bowl, terrific. Absolutely loved it. So, I mean, overall, terrific product by the league. As for my Super Bowl pick, I'll probably say Kansas City next year will be going back to the Super Bowl. And who will they be facing? Let's just have some fun. I'll say it'll be Kansas City over Los Angeles in the Super Bowl 56.
Ooh.
So basically Matt Stafford versus Patrick Mahomes. And
57, you mean, right?
Yes, 57. Yes. So, yeah, I'm going with Chiefs Rams as of now. So, yep. I mean, that's my pick. Let's just kind of keep this going now very quickly. So, Anirban, I just wanted to hear you, like, overall thoughts on the season and sort of predictions for Super Bowl 57.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to echo with you guys. I had a lot of fun watching the season. I think the extra week coupled with kind of the extra playoff spot really meant that the last kind of games of the season in particular just had so much excitement about them. I think there are just so many interesting storylines that emerge. Like we look at teams like the Colts resurgence late in the season with Jonathan Taylor just absolutely exploding. We look at the Titans who lost Derrick Henry earlier on and still went on to get the first seed and win the AFC South, even though of course they got sent home early. I mean, and that's just in the AFC. Obviously, we've talked so much about Mac Jones. I don't think there's a need to rehash but I think that the kind of the Cinderella story with Cincinnati Bengals seeing at least some sparks of promise from Denver Broncos and Oakland Raiders. And that's just the AFC. The NFC, I mean, it was also just just really, I think, entertaining just to see the Buccaneers playing so well. To kind of see, I don't know, just to see even teams like in the NFC East kind of make things interesting, like how the Washington Commanders really with Taylor Heineke, that whole kind of volatility early in the season. Overall, just really entertaining. And I also want to comment specifically on really the rookie class of this season, which really made it really fun. I mean, Kyle Pitts was a tight end on the Falcons, and obviously the Falcons weren't really red hot this season, but he was still really interesting. I think he's going to be an excellent tight end in the league. I mean, we can just go through all the positions. I mean, Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase, two just excellent wide receivers. Jamar Chase, one of the best wide receivers in the league in his very first year, and he's just going to be even better and better, I hope. I mean, not just them, and we can talk about Micah Parsons, we can talk about Mac Jones. I mean, we can talk even in the Patriots, our own Ramondre Stevenson, who I think starting midseason really showed a lot of things for us to be excited in him going forward. Christian Barmore, a lot of fresh talent injected into the league this year, and I'm really, really excited to see what they do. And even people who did make the All Pro list, like Javonte Williams in Denver Broncos as running back, and obviously Najee Harris, who did make the All Pro for rookies, but just really exciting overall. And so I think there's a lot of cool storylines to look forward to in the off season. In terms of my prediction for next year, you know me, I'm an evergreen optimist. And I do agree with what Ujan said. I think we're actually going to see some cool offseason moves made by the Patriots. I think we had a really good draft class from last season, and I'm hoping to see. I think if we can actually get a few really nice, promising prospects in like safety or cornerback or on our offensive line, other kind of areas that we really need to kind of update or get kind of more depth in. I think that would put us in a really strong position to compete. I think Mac Jones really hasn't shown any signs for me that he can really handle what it means to be on a big moment team like the New England Patriots. So I'm gonna actually, be an optimist and say that we'll make it again. And after the thrashing we got to Buffalo, we're not going to forget this anytime soon. So I think the next time we play them, it's going to be a very different story. Just like when we grounded out a win against them that really broke their morale, they rebounded and absolutely thrashed us. So I'm going to say the Patriots will make it in a kind of maybe a Cincinnati Bengals like kind of storyline where they just kind of upset a lot of predictions. And NFC, I think, is really complicated for the reason that Ujan brought up. I was tempted to say Dallas Cowboys, but I feel like they just kind of tend to miss the ball very slightly in the divisional round, like whenever I really see them doing well in the regular season. So I'm going to have a little fun with this. I'm actually going to say the Minnesota Vikings are going to make the Super Bowl at last after decades of wait. I think they have a lot of the pieces that they need. I think Kirk Cousins is a competent quarterback. I think he's not like I don't really see him obviously being at like an Aaron Rodgers, Big Ben, or Tom Brady level at their peaks. I mean, obviously but I'd say he's been a pretty solid quarterback for the last few years. I think he's been stable, which is really important. I mean, the Vikings have really some good pieces on offense. Tyler Conklin before he got injured. Justin Jefferson's absolutely fantastic. I think he's going to be an all-pro next season. Dalvin Cook's one of the best running backs. So I think if they get a few more pieces this offseason and I think they'll have around 16 million cap space. They can make things interesting. And I think we're going to see Patriots and Vikings come back to franchises that don't play each other often. But I think that's going to be my prediction.
Okay, that's a very interesting prediction, and that leaves us with Pratik. So, yep, let's What are your thoughts on the season and your prediction?
Yeah, it was a great season. It was. I loved the extra week. That was great. More football is always good. Yeah, I think. I mean, looking back from the perspective of a Patriots fan, I mean, kind of for me, the goal this year was really just to get back to the playoffs, which they accomplished. They had a slow start, then they reeled off 7 wins in a row. Then at the end of the season, they did stumble a bit with a couple losses to the Cardinals and Bills and Dolphins. But overall, Mac Jones showed great growth. I think he kind of rewarded their faith in using a first-round draft pick in him, and he outperformed the other quarterbacks in the draft class. I mean, that being said, he was in a better situation than the others. Like he was with the Patriots, who are not an organization like the Jets or Jaguars or whatever. So I'm looking forward to continued growth from Mac Jones in year 2. But yeah, I think overall the league was great. I think we are approaching something close to parity because even 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have believed the Bengals would have made the Super Bowl. Like when they were going into Tennessee, I'm like, even if they beat the Titans, they still have to win in Kansas City. But they did that too. So like, yeah, like it's fun. It's like that's why they play the games, and that's why you can't just look at it on paper and be like, oh, the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, they're gonna win the AFC every year. It's not gonna happen. So yeah, I mean, that being said, I'll also have some fun with my prediction for next year. I know a couple of people have already picked the Patriots. That's what I want. But I will go with the other LA team, which a lot of people say they don't have much fans, but I'd say the LA Chargers would play the Arizona Cardinals, and so the Arizona Cardinals would get to host. I don't know who's going to win, but I do think I've heard there's some drama going on with Kyler Murray, and he may not be happy right now, but they are currently a stacked team. They have DeAndre Hopkins. They've got James Conner. Shameless plug, James Conner had a great fantasy football season this year. So I do like him. But I think they got a good thing going over there. So it's my early prediction. So we'll see how the offseason shakes out. Of course, I'm biased, so I'll be keeping a keen eye on the Patriots free agency and draft and everything. But yeah, I'll go with Chargers Cardinals for now. West Coast Super Bowl. But yeah, we'll see how things shake out in the next few months.
Okay, yeah, I mean, these are all great predictions. So yeah, let's see what happens. And I'll just say one other thing about the Patriots. I think after thinking about this some more, I believe the gap between the Patriots and the Bills is closer to the December 26th matchup between the two teams than the matchup we saw in January. I really do believe that. Like, I think the Bills are better than the Patriots, but I don't think they're as
Not really much
better.
consolation.
Well, no, because that's different, right? Because on December 26th, If JC Jackson intercepts Josh Allen and returns it for a touchdown and the Patriots win that game, the Patriots actually played okay that day. They played horrendously against Buffalo. So, I mean, is that something you can kind of narrow the gap in an offseason? Of course you can. I mean, you already narrowed the gap on Buffalo. You actually beat Buffalo once this season versus last year you got swept. So, I mean, clearly you've narrowed the gap. And what's to say in another offseason you don't further narrow the gap and maybe even take over? I mean, that's how football works, right? So I will say that as a one thing. So, okay, I mean, I think these are the predictions. That's our recap of Super Bowl 56. Before we end the show, I do just want to mention this. Basically, this whole season, I mean, it has been awesome to do these podcasts every week, and we will be back in the off season as well to discuss other sports as well, Red Sox, Patriots, Celtics, and of course cover NFL news as it happens. But I mean, really, I mean, it is
baseball,
not
the
easy.
labor disputes are resolved.
I mean, it's not easy to do these every week. It takes commitment from all of us. So I mean, but the listeners, you guys make it possible because we want to do it for you to give you the best content. And that's why we stay motivated to do it. I mean, we have a rotating panel. We are so blessed to have such great contributors, all of us. Some of us obviously show up, and I mean, all of us come on and we want to give our best performance. So really to do this every week from week 1 of the 2021 season to the Super Bowl, the post-game recap, just thank you to all of you guys. We couldn't have done it without all of you. So, I mean, it's really awesome having you all on. And to our listeners, thank you for supporting us along the way. And we will continue to get better and grow this program more going into the off season. That is something you can guarantee from all of us. You will see.
And also one other thing, congratulations to Taylor Rapp on getting engaged. He proposed to his now fiance on the field. So big congratulations to him.
Good for him.
Yeah, congratulations. Yep, that will do it. So yeah, I mean,
Valentine's Day now. So.
Yes.
Well,
yeah,
at least on the East Coast.
Oh yeah, on the East Coast it already is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but that will do it. Super Bowl 56 is in the wraps, and the 2021 NFL season is officially over. So yeah, we will be back next week. I won't be on the show, but we will definitely have a panel to discuss all the offseason and anything that's going on. But to all of you, our listeners, hope you enjoyed the season, and we will be back.
No, we just wrapped up some great action on the gridiron, but there's great action going on the ice, on the court, and potentially on the diamond soon. So we'll be here. We'll be here to cover all of that. So stick around.
Yep. So that will do it for this episode. So for all our listeners, just have a great rest of your week. And yeah, stay tuned for the off season, all of our episodes. We will still continue to post every week, or mostly we will try to post every week. Until then, enjoy the day. And yep, we will be back. And go
all right,
Patriots.
as always. Peace.